The night over Moscow did not feel distant anymore. For the first time, the war reached the capital's daily heartbeat. This was Moscow, a metropolis of over 13 million people, suddenly overwhelmed. Since early 2026, Ukraine has struck Russia's most sensitive regions daily. From Crimea to Kuga, from Saratov to Samara, attacks unfolded relentlessly. Yet for an entire week, Moscow remained the primary focus. The capital became the center of a sustained and unprecedented retaliation. Moscow entered its longest stretch of civilian disruption in modern history. Airports across the city were completely paralyzed. Millions of residents faced fear, confusion, and growing uncertainty. Hundreds of thousands of homes lost electricity and heating simultaneously. The city descended into darkness during the harsh winter period. The irony was impossible to ignore for many observers. Moscow had planned to break Ukrainian morale through winter blackouts. Russian strikes aimed to freeze cities into submission. Ukrainians endured months of darkness and cold. Now the same conditions gripped Russia's own capital. Across Ukraine, civilian life faced constant danger almost daily. From Kyiv to Odessa, from Zaporizhzhia to Kharkiv, destruction was widespread. Russian missiles did not focus solely on military positions. Civilian buildings, power plants, and infrastructure absorbed the damage. Air raid sirens became part of daily life. Ukraine's response followed a different logic and rhythm. Retaliatory strikes came quickly and with clear coordination. For every Russian missile launched, Ukraine answered decisively. Thousands of drones surged toward Moscow in repeated waves. Since December 30th, sirens above the capital never truly stopped. These attacks did not limit themselves to military facilities. Symbols of prestige, wealth, and order were also disrupted. Moscow's luxury lifestyle suddenly felt fragile. Civilian routines collapsed under constant alerts. The psychological impact spread far beyond physical damage. The escalation peaked during the night of January 3rd to January 4th. Ukrainian drones penetrated deep into Russian airspace. Moscow once again stood at the center of operations. Transportation systems absorbed the most immediate shock. Authorities issued red alerts across the capital and surrounding regions. As unmanned aerial vehicles filled the skies, aviation halted abruptly. Moscow's major gateways to the world were shut down. Domodedovo, Vnukovo, and Zhukovsky airports activated emergency carpet plans. Flights were suspended without warning. Similar closures followed in Kuga, Ryazan, and Tula. In Moscow alone, over 200 flights were halted. Inside the terminals, scenes unfolded that felt unfamiliar to Russians. These were not evacuation centers or disaster shelters. They were luxury airport terminals, frozen in confusion. Thousands of passengers found themselves stranded indefinitely. People slept on benches and atop their luggage. Families waited without clear information. Panic mixed with exhaustion across the terminals. Flights were cancelled, delayed, or refunded in large numbers. The system struggled to manage the volume. The timing made the disruption even more painful. This period marked peak holiday travel nationwide. New Year celebrations and Orthodox Christmas vacations were underway. Hundreds of thousands of travel plans collapsed instantly. Moscow had not yet recovered from earlier blackouts during the holidays. From December 30th onward, drone pressure intensified around the capital. Ukrainian sources reported approximately 300 drones launched in one night alone. Domodedovo Airport remained closed continuously after that date. Around 100,000 residents in the Moscow region lost electricity. The outages deepened frustration across communities. During the night of December 30th to 31, power failures expanded rapidly. More than 600,000 subscribers reportedly lost electricity. Drone threat alerts spread across the region. Repairs were not expected to finish until January 7th. Weather conditions further complicated restoration efforts. Weather disruptions extended beyond Moscow's region. St. Petersburg's Pulkovo Airport faced severe delays. Kaliningrad's Kharabrovo Airport experienced similar issues. In Kaliningrad, 24 arrivals and 20 departures were delayed. At Pulkovo, dozens of flights were affected. Nordwind passengers suffered the longest delays. Some travelers remained stranded for 3 consecutive days. Compensation included limited meal vouchers and brief hotel accommodations. The strain highlighted systemic vulnerabilities in Russian transportation. Frustration mounted steadily. The Russian Defense Ministry confirmed the scope of the attacks. Officials stated that Ukraine targeted Moscow daily since early 2026. By midnight on January 4th, air defenses reportedly intercepted dozens of drones, yet hundreds still reached Russian territory. The scale marked a clear escalation. Estimate 437 drones reportedly struck Russia in a single night. This exceeded previous attack patterns significantly. The chaos lasted nearly a full week. It was not a symbolic response. It became one of Ukraine's longest sustained revenge operations against Moscow. Behind the civilian shutdown, deeper strategic strikes unfolded quietly. On December 4th, explosions shook Kubinka Air Base. This facility housed Russia's elite Russian Knights aerobatic team. It also served critical civil aviation functions. The message extended beyond symbolism. On January 4th, the second phase intensified dramatically. Drones traveled 800 kilometers southeast to Samara. The target was Rosneft's massive Novokubishevsk refinery. This facility produced high-octane gasoline and jet fuel. It played a vital role in Russia's energy network. Drones struck the refinery's distillation towers precisely. These were the facility's most sensitive components. More than 10 explosions illuminated the night sky. Satellite images confirmed widespread fires. The refinery's operational capacity was reportedly eliminated. Residents shared footage showing towering flames and thick smoke. Analysts confirmed catastrophic damage. This was not a random fuel depot. It represented a critical energy artery. Ukraine demonstrated precise intelligence and strategic targeting. The third phase targeted Lipetsk region's city of Yelets. Drones struck the Energia factory. This facility produced batteries and power units. Russian military drones and communications depended on its output. Radios, reconnaissance systems, and frontline equipment relied on these components. The factory's destruction crippled a technological backbone. Black smoke signaled long-term disruption. Repairs would take months. Russian military logistics faced immediate consequences. Energy and battery shortages loomed. On the southern front, economic damage deepened further. Ukrainian strikes hit the Taman oil terminal in Krasnodar. This terminal served Black Sea energy exports. Satellite imagery showed burned pipelines and damaged docks. Oil export infrastructure suffered a serious disruption. The fires stretched across vast distances. Even Tatarstan, 1,200 kilometers from Ukraine, was affected. The oil transfer depot in Almetievsk was hit. Regions once considered untouchable felt exposed. The geographic limits of the war dissolved for the Russians. In the Kuga region, the Ludanovo oil depot burned overnight. This depot served as a logistical gateway to Moscow. Like Samara and Yelets, it supplied the military directly. Fuel stocks exploded. Energy lines were severed. When attacks reached Kursk, the civilian infrastructure suffered heavily. The Kamyshovka power plant was struck. Though small geographically, the impact was massive. 115 settlements lost electricity instantly. Water systems failed. Communication networks collapsed. The broader picture required no military expertise to understand. Energy shortages crippled logistics immediately. Without fuel, batteries, or power, modern warfare stalls. Russia's supply chains are strained under domestic destruction. The war machine faced pressure from within. The shutdown of the Taman terminal cut critical cash flow. Russia's economy relies heavily on hydrocarbons. Oil exports fund state operations and military spending. Each refinery offline meant lost revenue. The financial impact was severe. Industry estimates suggested over 10% of refining capacity was damaged. This translated into billions of dollars lost. Funds intended for weapons and salaries disappeared. The Kremlin's war budget faced direct depletion. Internal pressure intensified rapidly. Fuel shortages affected military logistics directly. Trucks, tanks, and generators required a constant supply. Disrupting refineries struck both exports and battlefield operations. Civilian gasoline prices reportedly rose in several regions. Public frustration grew. The Kremlin now faced a brutal choice: prioritize fuel for the army or civilians. Either option carried serious political costs. Power outages and shortages taught Russians the price of war. The consequences arrived at gas stations and dark homes. The blackout in Kursk served as a warning. Winter attacks on energy created deep societal panic, fear-fueled hoarding and black market activity. Inflation concerns spread rapidly. The ruble's stability faced renewed pressure. Beyond physical destruction lay a deeper rupture. Putin's social contract relied on stability promises. Obedience in exchange for security defines governance. That promise was shattered publicly. Enemy drones flew over Moscow openly. The illusion of invincibility collapsed overnight. War became personal for millions. It was no longer distant footage. It became explosions outside the windows. This shift triggered widespread psychological shock. Learned helplessness began spreading quietly. From villages without power to stranded elites, fear unified experiences. People questioned the state's protective capacity. Telegram channels overflowed with anger and footage. Information control weakened. Elite panic moved beyond speculation. By late 2025, escape planning became tangible. Oligarchs faced facility losses and asset risks. Wealth and immunity appeared temporary. The refinery fires accelerated quiet exits. Reports suggested that asset transfers abroad increased. Dubai, Istanbul, and Doha emerged as destinations. Loyalty lost meaning as wealth evaporated. Each drone strike weakened elite confidence further. Strategically, Ukraine shifted the war's cost balance. Russia spent millions intercepting inexpensive drones. This asymmetry proved unsustainable. Ukraine forced attrition on Russian soil. Long-term war capacity eroded steadily. Destroying factories proved more decisive than frontline hits. Fuel and battery production mattered more than vehicles. Federal tensions deepened as defenses concentrated around Moscow. Regions questioned unequal protection. Why protect the capital while provinces burned? This question threatened internal cohesion. Ukraine targeted its infrastructure and political unity simultaneously. Physical damage mirrored institutional strain. Skeptics questioned the impact of drones alone. On their own, repairs were possible. But this was systemic pressure. A coordinated strategy unfolded across sectors. The crisis symbolized lasting vulnerability. Burning refineries and locked airports signaled deeper defeat. The myth of the fortress collapsed visibly. Fear etched itself into public consciousness. Stability promises dissolved under fire. The message echoed clearly across Russia. If Ukraine had no safe night, neither would Russia. The war returned to its initiator decisively. It did not knock politely. It forced entry. Now, the question remains: what does this escalation truly mean going forward? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Subscribe for more updates about this war.